My life is moving forward. No, please.
This is our future.
Kelechi Okafor divorced his pregnant wife like a man swatting a fly off his shoulder, quick, annoyed, and convinced it meant nothing. No shouting, no family meeting, no pleading. Just papers, a cold pen, and a quiet sentence. Pack your things. My life is moving forward. To him, Neca was dead weight, a woman who asked too few questions, owned too little, and smiled too gently, like someone grateful just to be chosen. And because pride is a sweet wine, he drank it without fear. What Kelechi did not know was this. Even as he signed the papers that erased her from his future, Neca was already a trillionaire in secret, patient, watching, and waiting. And somewhere far from his loud confidence, her money moved like wind through tall grass, buying the very logistics company his family had built for generations. Not to destroy it, but to teach a lesson so deep even ancestors would pause to listen. Okafor Logistics had been in the Okafor bloodline, the way palm oil sits inside soup, thick, stubborn, and everywhere. It started with Kelechi's grandfather, Papa Ifeanyi, who used to push a rusty wheelbarrow from the railway station to the market, carrying sacks for traders who could not afford hired hands. People laughed at him then, but Papa Ifeanyi would only wipe sweat from his face and say, "Laugh today, tomorrow has long legs." From that wheelbarrow, he bought one small delivery van. From one van, he bought three. From three, he built a company that moved goods across states, food, cement, electronics, medicine. Okafor Logistics became the kind of company politicians used when they wanted results without stories. It was not flashy, but it was respected. And now, it was Kelechi's turn to rise. Kelechi was 32, tall, clean-shaven, always smelling faintly of expensive cologne and ambition. He wore suits even when the weather was hot, as if dressing down would invite poverty back into his life. He spoke with confidence that sounded like certainty, and he hated anything that looked like weakness, including love, especially love that came with needs. When Kelechi married Nneka, people said he chose well. Nneka was gentle, not loud, not the type to embarrass a man in public. She cooked quietly, prayed softly, and laughed like rain on zinc, light, steady, not demanding attention. She never asked him to buy her a big car. She never demanded parties. She never thought his mother. She only asked one thing often: "Are you okay?" At first, Kelechi liked that question. Later, he grew to hate it, because pride does not like to be checked. And the more Okafor Logistics grew, the more Kelechi began to act like Nneka's kindness was a debt he had finished paying. It began the month Nneka's belly started to show. A new deal was on the table, an international partnership to handle last-mile delivery for a large multinational distributor. If Kelechi won it, Okafor Logistics would enter a new league. He started coming home late, sometimes not coming at all. When he did return, his eyes were always on his phone, not on his wife. But Nneka did not shout. She would warm food, keep it aside, and wait. One evening, as he loosened his tie in their living room, she said gently, "Kelechi, you look tired. Have you eaten?" He didn't answer. She walked closer, careful, as if approaching a wounded animal. "I made your favorite, just small pepper." He turned, his face hard. "Kelechi, do you know the kind of pressure I am under?" "I know. That's why I am asking." He turned, his face hard. "Pressure is not something you know, it's something you survive. If you don't have money, you won't understand." The words hung in the air like smoke. Nneka blinked once, twice, then she nodded.
"I'm sorry," she said. "I didn't mean to disturb you." Kelechi looked away, satisfied, like a man who had put a chair back in its place. But Nneka stood there, one hand on her belly, her eyes lowering to the floor. And in that moment, something inside her shifted, not into anger, not into revenge, but into clarity. Because some pains do not scream, they simply open your eyes. The real test came 2 weeks later. Kelechi's mother, Madame Ngozi Okafor, arrived with 2 suitcases and a face that carried authority like a crown. Madame Ngozi was not a wicked woman by nature, but she was a woman who believed a son's success belonged to his mother first. And she had watched Kelechi rise with the fierce pride of someone who once sold akara to pay school fees. When she entered, she looked at Nneka's belly, then at Nneka's face, then at the sitting room. "You are pregnant," she said, not as a celebration, but as a fact. "Yes, Mama." Madame Ngozi nodded slowly. "Good." Then she sat down and began to talk about the company, the new deal, the kind of women who circle successful men like flies around ripe mangoes. "Women are watching Kelechi now," she warned. "A man in a rising canoe attracts many hands." Neca listened respectfully. Then Madame Ngozi leaned forward. "Neca, I am not saying you are bad, but you are too soft. A soft woman will make a strong man weak." Neca's fingers tightened around the edge of her wrapper. Madame Ngozi continued. "Kelechi needs peace, not emotions. He needs a woman that understands business, not one that is always asking, 'Are you okay?'" Neca swallowed. "Mama, I'm only trying to support him." Madame Ngozi waved her hand. "Support? With what? What do you bring? Who is your father? Who knows your people?" Neca's mouth opened, then closed. Because in many homes, a wife learns quickly what kind of truth is allowed. Kelechi walked in at that moment, carrying the smell of traffic and victory. "Mama," he greeted, kissing her cheek. Madame Ngozi smiled like someone whose prayer had been answered. "My son," she said, "I came to help. This house needs order." Kelechi laughed. "You are always welcome." He turned to Neca. "And you, please don't stress Mama. You know she means well." Neca looked at him, searching his face for softness. But Kelechi's eyes were already elsewhere. So Neca chose humility. She nodded. "Yes, Mama. Mama is welcome." That night, while Kelechi slept, Neca sat on the edge of the bed and stared at the ceiling. Her hand rested over her belly, and in her heart she asked a question that did not have an easy answer. If a man cannot protect you when you are carrying his child, when will he ever protect you? From that day, the house changed. Madame Ngozi rearranged everything. She moved the chairs. She moved the kitchen items. She even moved Neca's place in the home. If Neca cooked, Madame Ngozi found fault. If Neca kept quiet, Madame Ngozi called her dull. If Neca spoke, Madame Ngozi called her disrespectful. And Kelechi? Kelechi remained the king of silence. He watched it like a man watching a fire from a safe distance, pretending it did not threaten his roof. One afternoon, Neca tried again. She met him at the door, her eyes tired. "Kelechi, please, can we talk just small?" He loosened his tie. "What is it?" "Your mother, she keeps calling me useless. She says I bring nothing. It's hurting me." Kelechi rubbed his forehead. "Neca, must you always create drama?" "It's not drama," she said, voice trembling. "I'm your wife." "And she's my mother," he snapped. "Do you want me to choose?" Neca's eyes widened. "Kelechi, I'm pregnant." He scoffed. "Pregnant women have been pregnant since the beginning of time. Don't use pregnancy to control me." Silence. Neca stood there like someone slapped in public. Then she lowered her head. "I'm not trying to control you," she whispered. "I just want peace." Kelechi looked at her belly with irritation, not tenderness. "Peace is expensive. If you can't afford it, don't demand it." Then he walked past her, into the house, leaving her standing at the doorway like a visitor in her own marriage. The final blow did not come with shouting. It came with pride wearing a calm face. One morning, Kelechi received a call at the office.
His investors were worried. A competitor, an aggressive new logistics brand, was offering lower prices and promising faster delivery. Kelechi needed capital to expand quickly. He needed new trucks, new warehouses, better tech, and he needed it now. His uncle, Uncle Nneka, advised him to seek a private investor. "Find a silent partner," Uncle Nneka said. "Someone with deep pockets." Kelechi nodded.
I already have someone in mind." A week later, Kelechi attended a private dinner where wealthy people spoke in low voices and ate small portions like hunger was a sin. That night, he met a woman named Sade Akinlabi, polished, confident, connected. She laughed at his jokes. She called him visionary. She talked business like a man and flirted like a queen. Before the month ended, whispers began to circle. Kelechi did not deny them. He simply started coming home later. And when Nneka asked, softly, carefully, "Are you seeing someone?" he exploded. "Are you mad?" he barked. "Look at you, pregnant and paranoid." Nneka stepped back, tears rising. "I only asked." "You asked because you want to trap me with pity. You think pregnancy makes you untouchable." Nneka's lips shook. "Kelechi, when did I become your enemy?" He stared at her for a long moment. Then he said something that sounded like a decision already made. "I made a mistake marrying you." The room spun. Nneka's hand went to her belly as if shielding the baby from the words. Kelechi walked to the table and dropped an envelope. "Sign those papers. Let's end this respectfully." Nneka stared at the envelope. "Divorce?" she whispered. Kelechi's face was cold. "Yes, I can't carry dead weight into my future." Nneka's voice broke. "Kelechi, I am carrying your child." He shrugged. "I will take care of the child, but you are not my destiny." Madame Ngozi, who had been watching from the hallway, nodded as if approving a business deal. Nneka looked from Kelechi to Madame Ngozi, then back to Kelechi. Her eyes were wet, but her voice came out quiet. "Is this what you want?" Kelechi didn't blink. "Yes." Nneka swallowed hard. And here, the moral test stood in full daylight. She could fight. She could scream. She could curse. She could drag his name through the streets. She could call his investors, expose his affair, ruin him. But she did not. Because the kind of woman Nneka was not the kind that uses fire to answer fire. She picked up the envelope slowly. Her fingers trembled, but her spine stayed straight. Then she said, "May the child in my womb never learn pride from you." Kelechi scoffed. "Stop being dramatic. Just sign." Nneka opened the envelope, read the papers, and saw that even her dignity had a price tag. No house, no settlement, only a small support clause written like charity. She exhaled and signed. Not because she was weak, but because she understood something elders know. Sometimes the best response to a proud man is time. Nneka did not pack in anger. She packed like a woman leaving a place that no longer held her spirit. She folded her clothes carefully. She carried only what she needed. When she walked out, she did not look back. Madame Ngozi watched her go, lips tight. Kelechi stood at the doorway, arms crossed, as if expecting her to beg. Nneka did not. Outside, rain began to fall softly. Not the loud rain that breaks roofs, the quiet rain that speaks like a prayer. Nneka stepped into it, her whopper darkening with water, her face turned upward for a moment. Then she whispered to herself, "God, let my kindness not become my punishment." And she walked away. People expected Nneka to run back to her village, but she did not. She went to a small apartment in a quiet part of town, arranged by a woman she called Auntie Lolo. Auntie Lolo was not family by blood. She was family by mercy. The kind of older woman who sees pain and does not ask for entertainment. When Nneka arrived, soaked, carrying a small bag, Auntie Lolo pulled her into a hug without questions. "You will rest, then you will talk." For days, Nneka slept. She ate little. She stared at her belly like it was both a promise and a wound. At night, she cried quietly into her pillow so the walls would not learn her sadness.
Then one evening, Auntie Lolo brought tea and sat beside her. "Nneka," she said softly, "who are you?"
Nneka looked away. I'm tired. No, Auntie Lolo said. Not your tiredness. Your name is not tiredness. Who are you? Nneka's throat tightened. Slowly, carefully, she said, I am not who they think I am. Auntie Lolo nodded once, like she already knew. Then Neca told her the truth. Not all the truth, just enough. My father, Neca whispered, is alive, but he has lived like a shadow. Auntie Lolo waited. He built wealth, more than people can imagine, trillions, but he never wanted his name to carry noise. He said, if the world knows you, it will also plan against you. Auntie Lolo's eyes widened slightly. Nneka's voice trembled. When I married Kelechi, I didn't tell him. My father told me not to. He said, let your husband love you for you, not for money. Auntie Lolo breathed out slowly. And now? Nneka looked down at her belly. Now I don't know what to do. Auntie Lolo touched her hand. You will do what wise women do. You will protect your child, and you will let pride meet truth at the right time. Nneka nodded, tears falling again. But this time, there was something else behind the tears. Resolve. Because the world had mistaken her silence for emptiness, and that is always dangerous. Back at Okafor Logistics, Kelechi was enjoying the space Nneka left behind. He replaced her quickly, not with a wife, but with a lifestyle. He attended more parties, he wore more expensive watches, he laughed louder, and he began moving openly with Shade Akinabi, the polished woman from the private dinner. Shade introduced him to powerful people, investors, politicians, industry players. Kelechi felt like he was finally living the life he deserved. Madame Ngozi was pleased. This is a woman of value, she told her friends. Not that village calm one that can't hold a man's destiny. But even in the middle of celebration, problems were quietly gathering like clouds. Fuel prices shifted. Road insecurity increased. A few trucks were attacked on highways. Customers began complaining about delays, and the competitor brand continued to steal contracts. Kelechi tried to respond with confidence, but confidence is not always competence. One morning, Uncle Emeka stormed into his office. Kelechi, he said, voice low, something is happening. Kelechi frowned. What? The banks are tightening, Uncle Emeka said. Loans are becoming harder, and there are rumors. Rumors of what? Uncle Emeka hesitated. Of acquisition. Kelechi laughed sharply. Ha ha! Who will acquire Okafor Logistics? This company has roots. Uncle Emeka's face didn't change. The rumor says someone is buying up shares quietly, not with noise, with precision. Kelechi's laughter faded. Who? Uncle Emeka shook his head. We don't know. The name is hidden behind investment vehicles, shell companies, lawyers. Kelechi leaned back, irritated. Let them try, he said. Nobody takes what belongs to Okafor. But in the old stories, elders warn, when a man says nobody, he is usually about to meet somebody. Nneka's pregnancy advanced. Her body grew heavier. Her sleep became lighter, but her spirit grew stronger. Her father, still hidden from public eyes, sent doctors, sent support, sent security, sent money. Enough money to buy neighborhoods. But Nneka did not use it for pride. She used it for peace. She attended prenatal visits quietly. She kept to herself. She did not post pictures. She did not announce anything. And when Auntie Lolo asked her one evening, are you going to destroy Kelechi? Nneka stared at the tea in her cup and said, no. Auntie Lolo blinked. After what he did? Nneka's lips trembled slightly. I don't want my child to grow up with revenge in his blood, but I also don't want my child to learn that people can do anything and call it life. Auntie Lolo nodded slowly. That is wisdom, not weakness. Nneka's eyes lifted. So what do I do? Auntie Lolo leaned closer. You let truth correct him, she said. But you don't become the kind of person that hurt you. Neca exhaled. And somewhere in that quiet apartment, a plan began. Not a plan of violence, but a plan of consequence. Because African wisdom is not always about punishment. Sometimes it is about revealing the mirror. Okafor's logistics had shareholders. Not many, but enough. Family members, old investors, a few quiet partners. Kelechi owned the largest piece, but not all. And the thing about business is this. You can build a house with your sweat, but if you don't read the papers you sign, someone else can own the land under your feet. A legal firm began contacting minority shareholders, offering premium prices. Sell now, they advised, before market volatility affects value. Some refused, some accepted. Some accepted quickly because hunger always accepts. Within months, shares that had been in family hands for years began shifting. Kelechi noticed small changes. Questions at board meetings, new compliance requests, audits, a rising pressure he could not control with charisma. He called Sade one night. Kelechi, welcome to the real world. Big players don't announce themselves. Kelechi's jaw tightened. But this is my family company. Sade's tone cooled. Then you should have secured it. Don't blame the market for doing what markets do. Kelechi swallowed irritation. He was the kind of man who hated being reminded that he was not as powerful as he believed. Still, he pushed forward, because pride does not retreat easily. Neca gave birth on a calm morning, when the sun rose like it had nothing to do with human pain. It was a boy, healthy, strong lungs, a cry that sounded like determination. As the baby was placed on Neca's chest, she wept. Quiet tears, not dramatic ones. Auntie Lolo stood nearby, hands clasped. Neca kissed her child's forehead and whispered, "You will not inherit shame." Her father visited discreetly. No convoy, no photographers. Just a man with quiet power stepping into a private room like a shadow with a heartbeat. He looked at the baby, then at Neca. "My daughter," he said softly, voice thick, "are you okay?" That question, "Are you okay?" the same question Kelechi had come to hate, landed like healing. Neca nodded, tears falling again. "I'm okay, Papa." He held her face gently. "You are stronger than I prayed for. Now tell me what you want." Neca breathed out slowly. "I want my child to be safe, and I want Kelechi to learn, without me becoming bitter." Her father nodded, eyes calm. "Then we will do it your way." And somewhere outside that hospital room, lawyers and investment managers continued moving like chess players, because while a baby was being born, and lesson was also being prepared. By the time Neca's baby was 3 months old, Okafor's logistics began to shake. A major contract was terminated. Another demanded refunds for delays. A government audit suddenly appeared. The bank called in part of their loan. Kelechi spent nights in the office. His suit began to look tired. His skin began to carry stress. Madame Ngozi complained. "This is spiritual," she said. "Someone is fighting us." Uncle Emeka tried to speak sense. "It's not spiritual. It's structure. It's ownership. It's governance." Kelechi snapped at him. "Are you saying I'm not competent?" Uncle Emeka looked at him carefully. "I'm saying pride blinds, and you have been blind." Kelechi stood up abruptly. "Leave my office." Uncle Emeka sighed and left, because you cannot help a man who treats advice like insult. Then came the day that broke Kelechi's confidence. The board meeting was called, urgent, formal, tense. Kelechi walked into the conference room expecting the usual faces, but something felt different. 2 strangers sat at the far end, a woman in a gray suit with sharp eyes, and a man with a calm face and a folder in front of him.
Kelechi frowned. "Who are these?" The company secretary cleared her throat. "They are representatives of our new majority shareholder." Kelechi laughed once. "What new majority shareholder?" The woman in the gray suit spoke calmly. "Okafor Logistics has been acquired," she said. Kelechi's laughter died. "Acquired?" he repeated. "By who?" The man opened the folder. "By Eden Crown Holdings," he said. Kelechi blinked. I've never heard of them. The woman in grey smiled slightly. That is the point. Kelechi's hands clenched under the table. This is impossible, he said. This company belongs to my family. The woman's voice remained calm. Ownership is not a feeling, Mr. Okafor, she said. It is paperwork. She slid documents forward. Eden Crown Holdings now controls 58% of the shares. Kelechi stared at the papers like they were written in another language. How? He whispered. Uncle Emeka, sitting quietly, finally spoke. I tried to warn you, he said softly, but you were busy cutting dead weight. Kelechi's stomach turned, because he suddenly remembered Nneka's quiet face as she signed divorce papers. He shook his head, as if shaking could remove reality. Who is behind Eden Crown? He demanded. The woman in grey looked toward the door. As requested, the principal will address the board personally today. Kelechi turned sharply toward the entrance, and that is when the door opened. At first, Kelechi didn't recognize her, because the woman who walked in did not look like Nneka he divorced. This woman wore a simple but expensive dress, modest, elegant, quiet luxury. Her hair was neatly styled. Her face was calm, but her eyes carried something deeper than emotion. Not anger, not revenge, clarity. Behind her walked 2 assistants and a lawyer, and in her arms, covered with a soft cloth, was a baby. The room stood still. Even the air seemed to pause. Kelechi's mouth opened slightly, then closed. His heart began beating like a drum inside a small room. Nneka? He whispered, voice cracking. Nneka walked forward slowly, as if every step had meaning. She placed the baby's carrier carefully on a chair beside her and looked around the room. Then she spoke, not loudly, not softly, but with steady control. Good morning, board members. The woman in grey stood up respectfully. Madam Chair, she said. Kelechi's world tilted. Madam Chair, he repeated. Neca looked at him, then. Their eyes met, and Kelechi saw something he had never bothered to see before. He saw intelligence. He saw strength. He saw the kind of composure money cannot buy, but money often reveals. Nneka nodded slightly. Yes, she said. I am the principal investor behind Eden Crown Holdings. Kelechi's breath caught. No, he said quickly. This is a joke. Nneka, what are you doing? Nneka's gaze stayed calm. I'm doing what you taught me. Kelechi frowned, confused. Nneka continued. You told me peace is expensive. You told me if I cannot afford it, I should not demand it. Her eyes drifted to the documents on the table. So, I paid. The room was silent. A board member cleared his throat awkwardly. Madame Ngozi, who had insisted on attending the meeting, stood up suddenly. You, she shouted, pointing. You came to destroy us. Nneka turned to her, expression respectful. Mama, I did not come to destroy. I came to correct. Madame Ngozi's chest rose and fell. Correct! You want to take our company. Nneka nodded gently. The company was already being taken. By the market, by debt, by poor decisions. I simply arrived before it collapsed. Kelechi's voice came out rough. How do you have this kind of money? Nneka looked down at the baby, then back up. My father, she said calmly, is Chief Obiera Nwoke. The name landed like thunder without lightning. Every elder in that room knew the name, not because he showed his wealth, but because people whispered about it. Chief Obiera Nwoke, a man rumored to be among the wealthiest Africans alive, living like a quiet ghost. Kelechi's lips parted. You're his daughter? Nneka nodded once. I was, she said, and I still am.
Kelechi swallowed, his pride collapsing inward. You hid it, he said, voice small. Nneka's eyes did not harden. I did not hide it to deceive you, she replied. I hid it to protect love. She paused. And to test it. Kelechi flinched as if struck. Nneka continued, calm and clear. I wanted a man who would love me when I had nothing, because money is loud. It attracts performance, not truth. She looked around the room. I got my answer. Kelechi pushed his chair back slightly, palms on the table. Nneka, he whispered, please, we can talk. Nneka nodded. We will talk, she said, but first, business. She turned to the board. Okafor logistics will not be dismantled. It will be strengthened. Staff salaries will be stabilized. Debts will be restructured. Governance will be corrected. Then she looked at Kelechi. And leadership will be addressed. Kelechi's throat tightened. Uncle Nneka watched silently, his eyes sad, not happy. Because wisdom does not celebrate downfall, it only notes it. Nneka spoke again. Kelechi Okafor will step down as CEO. The room gasped softly. Kelechi's face drained. What? He croaked. You can't. Nneka lifted a hand gently. This is not emotional, it is structural. She pushed a document toward him. You will remain on the board but without executive power. Your position will be reviewed after performance, humility, and accountability are demonstrated. Madame Ngozi sat down slowly, as if her legs forgot how to hold pride. Kelechi stared at Nneka, eyes wet, voice breaking. But I'm your husband. Nneka's eyes did not flinch. You divorced me, she said simply, quietly, without ceremony. Kelechi's lips trembled. I didn't know, he whispered. Nneka nodded. Yes, you didn't know. She leaned forward slightly, voice steady. And because you didn't know, you felt safe to be cruel. The words were not shouted. That is why they cut deeper. Kelechi's shoulders slumped. He looked around the room, at the documents, the faces, the reality. Then he whispered, What do you want from me? Nneka looked at him for a long moment. Then she said, I want you to become the kind of man our child can respect. Kelechi's eyes darted toward the baby carrier. Our child, he whispered. Nneka nodded. He is here, not as a weapon, not as a bargaining chip, as a life. Kelechi swallowed hard. I want to see him, he said. Nneka's gaze softened slightly. You will, she said, in time, with boundaries, with responsibility. Kelechi's voice cracked. Nneka, please, I'm sorry. Nneka held his gaze. I know, she said quietly, but sorry is not a ladder. It is only the first step. After the meeting, news moved quickly through circles that always know what to whisper. Sade Akinlabi, the polished woman who called Kelechi visionary, began to distance herself. At first, she pretended it was busy schedule. Then she stopped answering calls. When Kelechi finally met her at an event and confronted her, she smiled thinly. Kelechi, I liked you when you looked like a winner, but I don't date rehabilitation projects. Those words finished what the board meeting started. Kelechi walked out of the event alone. And that night, for the first time in months, he sat in his empty house without music, without parties, without the comfort of applause. Madame Ngozi tried to speak, but her voice had lost its authority. Because when pride falls, it becomes quiet. Kelechi stared at the wall and remembered Nneka's question, Are you okay? Back then he hated it. Now he wished someone would ask. Nneka did not become a wicked queen. She did not block staff salaries. She did not fire people out of spite. She worked, quietly, efficiently. She brought in experts. She upgraded systems. She repaired relations with clients. Okafor logistics began to stabilize. Trucks returned to the road with better security planning.
Warehouses expanded. Drivers received training and benefits. The company's reputation slowly healed, and every step Neca remained careful. She did not speak evil of Kelechi in public. She did not turn his downfall into entertainment, because she understood something deeper than revenge. A child's future is tied to both parents, whether you like it or not. Kelechi, meanwhile, struggled. Without executive power, he had time.
too much time. Time to remember what he threw away. Time to see how his pride had been louder than his love. He started attending therapy quietly, recommended by Uncle Nneka. He began working under a senior operations director, learning again from the ground. The first day he reported like a normal staff member, he felt shame burn his throat. But shame can either destroy you or teach you. Kelechi chose to learn. He began showing up consistently. He began apologizing to staff he once disrespected. He began admitting when he did not know something. Madame Ngozi watched this change with a heavy heart. One evening she came to Uncle Emeka's house and sat down quietly. "I pushed him," she whispered. "I pushed him into pride." Uncle Nneka sighed. "We all watered it," he said, "but he drank it willingly." Madame Ngozi's eyes filled with tears. "Will she forgive us?" Uncle Nneka looked out into the night. "Forgiveness is not a door you kick open," he said. "It is a door you wait for." Months later, Neca agreed to meet Kelechi privately at a small, quiet cafe with no cameras, no drama. Kelechi arrived early. He stood when she walked in. Neca carried her baby on her back, wrapped in soft cloth, as women have done for generations. Kelechi's eyes went to the child immediately. The baby blinked up at him, innocent, unaware of pride and pain. Kelechi's throat tightened. "Neca," he whispered, "thank you for coming." Neca sat down carefully. "I didn't come for comfort. I came for clarity." Kelechi nodded quickly. "Yes, I understand." He swallowed. "I was wicked, not because you did anything wrong, but because I wanted to feel powerful." Neca's gaze stayed steady. Kelechi continued. "I thought love was something I could control. I thought money was the only language that mattered." His voice cracked. "But when you walked into that boardroom, I realized I had been living like a small king in a small village, thinking the world ended at my gate." Neca listened quietly. Kelechi's eyes dropped. "I'm not asking you to return to me as a wife. I know I broke that, but I'm asking for a chance to be a father, and a chance to be a better man." Neca looked at him for a long moment. Then she asked softly, "Why should I trust you?" Kelechi's shoulders slumped. "You shouldn't," he admitted. "Not yet." He looked up, eyes wet. "But I will earn it, slowly, if you allow it." Neca's expression softened just a little. "Earning takes time," she said. Kelechi nodded. "I have time." Neca adjusted the baby's wrap, then said, "You can see him, under supervision at first, with structure." Kelechi's breath shook. "Thank you," he whispered. Neca leaned forward slightly. "And Kelechi?" "Yes?" She looked him directly in the eyes. "Never again confuse a quiet woman with a powerless woman." Kelechi nodded, tears falling. "I won't," he said. Years later, Okafor Logistics became larger than it had ever been, not because of pride, but because of discipline. People began to speak of Eden Crown Holdings with respect, still mysterious, still quiet. And within the company, there was a story staff never forgot, how the former CEO's pregnant wife returned as the majority owner, not to burn the company, but to rebuild it, not to humiliate him publicly, but to correct him privately. Kelechi did not regain the CEO seat quickly. He worked, he learned, he stayed humble, and slowly he became the kind of man who could look his son in the eyes without shame. Madame Ngozi also changed. She apologized to Neca quietly in a room with no witnesses. Neca did not insult her. She listened.
She accepted responsibility from her. And she kept boundaries. Because forgiveness without boundaries is just permission for repeated pain. One evening, when Nneka's son was old enough to understand stories, he sat at her feet and asked, "Mommy, why did Daddy used to be sad?" Nneka looked at her child's face and smiled gently. Because he thought pride was strength, she said. But pride is only noise. The boy frowned. Then what is strength? Nneka touched his cheek. Strength is kindness with wisdom, she said, and wisdom is knowing people are more than what they own. And that is why the elders say, a man who divorces love in pride may later kneel before truth in shame, because wealth can be hidden, but character cannot.